Hi, Hal here with more Dual Universe, and today we're going to talk about some things that I've been getting asked about a little bit more often. Specifically, the skill system and how things relate to what's going on in the game and what are available and upgrade paths. So let's go ahead and talk about that first. We get started. So let's go. So, good morning, everybody. Hopefully, you're having a fantastic day. So, skills. Yeah. Let's talk about those for a second. I'm waiting for things to make their way through the construction process. So, yeah. All right. So, one of the first things I will recommend to new players is to take probably 5-10 minutes after you finish the tutorial programs to learn the skills UI. By default, F2 brings this window up, and it'll bring you to a system at the time of this recording, at least, where you'll have a UI that looks like this. Basically, what you are looking at are the types and categories of skills that are available, and this is your training queue. For those who have played something like EVE Online or other games that allow you to do continuous in-game learning, that a lot the system is very similar and will probably be very familiar to you. So just like in some of those other games, a lot of what you do, your personal ability is the bulk of what you will do. So if you are a good first-person shooter person, you've got good twitch reflexes, or your creativity, or the way that you do things as far as like block building or progression, those types of things will always be true to you. What the system does is there are things that you can't actually manipulate in the game that the skills will allow you to modify. So what does this all mean? Okay, so let's talk about the mining, since I have previously said it is probably one of the most important single player aspect character skills and player skills that you need to develop. So what mining and inventory grouping the skill grouping will do is it'll give you things like equipment manager, architect, avatar, modifiers, terraforming, miner, inventory management, etc. Now, these are important because of the fact that one of the first things that I will normally recommend for players to do is go into the architect skill, do the core unit upgrades, and then put a point or two into this. By default, you can place 2 active cores, be it dynamic, which are your vehicles, static, which are your planet side things like your buildings if you want to build a factory or any type of industry, and space cores being the space station equivalent to the static core. Now, I do recommend that you plan on having probably 2 to 3 bases, one on multiple planets, and for every base you want to plan to have a vehicle available for it as well. So generally speaking, for every planet that you're going to expand your territory control into, you're going to want at least 2 cores. Thankfully, the core unit upgrades give you 2 cores for each rank. Now, at the max level of this, that gives you 10 cores plus your initial 2 for a total of 12 cores. And then the advanced cores will give you 1 core per rank. So you can have up to a potential maximum of 17 constructs, be it bases, space stations, or vehicles, ground vehicles, air vehicles, whatever. All of the cores, regardless of type, count towards your max active cores. So this is one of the reasons why I recommend putting at least 1 rank into this. If you've done all of the tutorials, you're going to have a bunch of free points. You're probably going to have like 25 or 30,000 free points available. The first rank of these, I want to say, is like 600, it may be 1,000. So you're not gonna, it's not gonna hurt you too much to go ahead and throw one in there. Now, the other thing that I will often recommend is increasing your static core and dynamic core expertise. These will unlock new ranks of core. So when you start, you're going to have just what they call the XS, or extra small cores, for both static and space. If you unlock the next rank, that takes you up to small. If you unlock the third rank, that takes you up to medium. So what happens is each one of these becomes progressively larger for the amount of area that you have to build in. The smallest core, I want to say, is 32 square meters, and then 64, 128, 256 when you get up into the large core. These are all measurements of volume, and so what you will see is when you're placing these things, you'll have much more room to plan things out and to build things to the way that you want to build them. So these are definitely things that you want to be paying attention to. And then the dynamic core is the same thing. You start with the extra small core unlocked, and then if you put a rank or two into it, you'll get small up to medium. And as you can see, I'm working on large currently, and that will actually be done in about an hour. So, but again, it's going to be up to you on what you're planning on doing and how you're planning on playing. Right now, as of this recording, there is very limited combat in the game. So most of the things you're going to be doing are mining and building infrastructure. So building vehicles, building bases, building material or equipment that will process your materials into more equipment. So ideally, you're going to do something that will play to the strengths of what's available and what you want to do. But again, there are potential chances for PvP if you go looking for it, but it's few and far between right now. So that's why right now I'm making the recommendation of you probably want to put a couple of ranks into each of the cores, and then you're also probably going to want to do things like the mining range. There's some skills in here that will change how much, what the range of your mining tools operate at, how far the scanners will scan, as well as how fast the scanners will return signals, or how often there's what they call auto ping when you're moving and scanning. The scanner will send out a pulse, and the faster that happens, the more accurate and more up to date the information is you're getting back from it. So these are all things that you're going to want to keep in consideration. So like I said, my basic stuff is look at the cores, figure out what you want to do, how much space you need. With the mining, again, go through, figure out what works for you. Now, one of the things that I wish I had known when I started was that under the skill system, there's actually an industry and there's crafting. These are slightly different. So industry impacts the speed and efficiency at which you build things using the industry-based technology. So refineries, smelters, assembly lines, all of these things are impacted by this particular skill set under the industry tree. And what these will allow you to do is they generally cut time off when using certain items. Like, so when you put down, if you have an assembler and you place it down, it will have a default time for everything in there. So production time might be, say, 100 seconds. For every rank that you have of the efficiency handling for, say, extra small assemblers, when you place that assembler, if you're at max rank, that's going to take 10% off of that craft time. When you're talking early game, it's not so important. When you start getting towards that middle game and going even further into late game, you have craft times that can be upwards of 8, 10, 12 hours, even up to like a day. So when you start talking about more complex things, that 2% doesn't seem like much until you start talking about that you're saving hours of time. And that's true for anything that goes through that device. And like I said, I wish I had known earlier about these skills and what the actual impacts of them were. So if you're going to go craft and industry heavy, these are skills you're definitely going to look into investing in over time. Now, some of these things will have, like if you're planning on doing a lot of combat-based materials production, so ammo, weapon systems, and the assorted equipment that comes with that. You may want to go under the combat stuff. If you're looking to do interior design elements, it's going to be the furniture and appliance. If you're looking to be somebody who is building the industrial equipment for other people, you're going to look at the industry and infrastructure element. And then obviously if you're doing vehicles, it's going to be piloting. And then you have general systems, which actually are not a bad thing to get into, because I think this is the one that impacts electronics, or did they split that out? Assembler, industry efficiency. Yeah, I think the systems element will be the one that you want for your electronics assembly and metal assembler, which are what you will use for, obviously, for the electronics such as diodes, circuit boards, whatever. And then the metalworking is going to be things like your metal frames, which you use in a lot of your various constructs when you're building stuff. They're base components that get put into other things. So under crafting, you're looking at specific parts that you're doing or specific items. So basic ore refinery, this is going to be when you have any item or any ore being processed. This is going to save you a little bit of time, and then you can actually go into these specific ores. And basically what this is these are trees, so basic ore, uncommon ore, rare ore. These are advanced ore. These are the tiers that you will have of the different material types. So if you're looking to increase the efficiency and speed at which you are manufacturing subcomponents or refining materials, you're going to be under the crafting tree. Now, ammo, this is going to be more combat based, because what you're talking about here is you're talking about the effective cone of the ammo, how far the ammo will travel, how fast the ammo tracks, and then the specific types of damage modifiers. So ammo is going to be the combat focus. Piloting's both combat and non-combat piloting. So this is basically, it makes it easier or more efficient for things like how fast you're going, what the control, how sloppy the controls are, for those who understand that term. For those who don't, we're talking about how responsive things are and how quickly the controls will respond to what you are doing. All controls have dead zone, and in the game there's a virtual dead zone in the controls. So the better your piloting skills are here, the modifiers, the better your vehicle will handle, and it will be able to keep up with your personal skill abilities. And then you have things like radar, and then there are 3 radar devices in the game, basically a small, medium, and large. And what this allows you to do is more quickly identify when things are hostile, the number of things that are being tracked, the type of information, and the speed at which you get that information back. But it's all operations stuff. So for people who are planning on doing a lot of multiplayer ship combat, because you can have ships that have multiple stations in them, and one of those stations is basically a radar operator. And if you have somebody with a good skill doing this, the radar systems will return much more information much faster. And then you have the weapon skills, which are basically the individual classes of weapons. So you'll have the extra small, medium, large, and extra large. I think we've got now. I think we have extra large weapons, right? Maybe not. Maybe it's just large still. But again, it'll allow you to basically the performance of those weapons to increase, as well as the size and speed at which like the magazines are. So you get extra capacity depending on what the magazine is. There's cannons. So again, a lot of overlap in here as far as what the skills do. It's just how they're separated into the elements that they actually modify. So that's the skill system, and I know that it's kind of dry, it's kind of boring to look at, but like I said, I do recommend you spend maybe 10 minutes getting familiar with it. Think about what you want to be doing in the game, both short term and long term, and plan your skill advancements around that. I have not yet seen a skill trainer online. Does not mean there isn't one there. For those who are unfamiliar with this, a lot of MMOs that use skill tree systems will have some form of somebody, either the company itself or a fan of the company, will build trainers that will allow you to plan your skills out. So you know how long it takes, how much experience it takes, etc. And I haven't seen one of those for Dual Universe yet, but I have heard unofficially that there are people in the community working on them. So we'll see what actually leads to that. As soon as I find one that's good, I'll share that information with y'all. But yeah, so I mean that's really the system in a nutshell. Everything in here has a use. It's just, what are you going to do? If you want to be a pilot, you're definitely going to focus on the piloting skills. Because of the fact that right now the game is very limited in its combat aspects, I recommend focusing on mining and industry, because that will allow you to gather the resources, process the resources, and turn them into final goods that you can either use or sell yourself. But yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So hopefully you found this useful and educational. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. If you want to see more, be sure to let me know in the comments down below, as well as to subscribe to the channel if you really want to see more. So the content for Dual Universe is going to be a little thin for a while, because of the fact that we're really in a position right now and timing wise where the tutorials are probably more useful than gameplay, because the gameplay really is a lot of waiting for things to be produced that you then build with. I do have some build videos planned. I'm currently in the process of making materials for those builds, and as soon as those are done, we'll be doing some build videos as well. So on that note, I am going to get out of here. I want to thank you all for stopping in. Like I said, hopefully you enjoyed it, found it useful. If you do have any questions or comments or things that were covered here you want clarified a little bit more, or things that haven't been covered and you would like to see covered, be sure to let me know. I'm always glad to help when I can, and hopefully it's useful for them. On that note, I am going to get out of here. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Enjoy your week, and we will see you back here. Well, I can't say that it'll be this week, but you never know. I'll just say next time. As always, folks, take care and be safe out there, everybody. Quick, get up the stairs.